Hi, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. For those of you on YouTube, I am doing a video this week so you can see my face and interact that way. And for those listening on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast, welcome. We are going to talk about the November energies today, and we'll see if it's getting to be any lighter or a little bit less turbulent as we move into November than we have been experiencing really all summer long, as we have been battling a lot of very strange energies and 7 planets in retrograde over the summer, and so many shifts that I don't think we're expecting for this year. This 2023 is definitely, it's a 7 year. It's been the year about spirituality. It's about connecting in with our higher self and the best version of ourself. And also that 7 years about learning a lot of lessons within the karmic contracts that we have. And it's definitely been that way, I think, for a lot of us. It's been a very transformative year, to say the least. So we are just coming off eclipse season. We are still in the window of the eclipse, and that eclipse energy we will really feel for months to come. But really the intensity of it should start to let down as we begin to enter November. It was a doozy. It was definitely a doozy. I mean, eclipses aren't meant to be easy rides. This is energy that brings in very quick and sudden changes. It is energy that is here to transform us at a very deep level. And you combine that with the energy of Scorpio season, and all of that combined is really helping us to move out a lot of the junk that is in the energy field that needs to move, that needs to be transformed, that needs to be cleansed, and allows you to really step into a new doorway, a new portal, as it is, so you can start to move in a new direction. And I think that we are very much at a pivotal point. Each of us have been really looking deeply at our personal lives, our personal behaviors. I know I have, at a deep level, during this time, to say, are these the things that I want to continue to move forward? Are these the behaviors? Are these the thought patterns? Is this the approach that I want to take moving forward? And I think that was the self-evaluation piece that all of us had to make at that time, to figure out, are we going to continue down the same path, or are we going to make a different choice, a different decision? And it was really about sweeping out the leftovers, right? So we had the solar eclipse on October 14th, and that was on the axis of the Aries and Libra. So the nodes have changed this summer. We were on the Taurus and Scorpio axis, and then we moved into the Libra and the Aries axis. So the first round of this on the 14th was very much focused on that axis, which Libra is very much about the we. It generally sits in the 7th house of partnership. And then Aries is the I. It sits in the 1st house. It's usually, representative of who we are at our core. And that entire part of the eclipse, the solar eclipse, was really about kind of letting go. Like, what are the last few pieces, especially as it relates to relationships, that we needed to let go of? Were there relationships that needed to be let go, that we were just continuing to hold on, or didn't quite feel in alignment, but we were accommodating those relationships? What are those things that we needed to let go of in order to move more into the I, more into what do I want? What are my needs? And stopping that over accommodation, or just trying to be nice and trying to accommodate others or not offend anybody. And so this was the big lesson. This was the big kind of sweep in that happened. Then as we moved between the two eclipses, the 14th and the 28th, I think a lot of this was very much about inward reflection. It was about coming into a contemplative state, and it was focusing really deeply on, where have I given away my power? or what doesn't really feel good anymore to me that I need to really start to examine. What is draining me? Where am I giving away my energy? Where am I giving away my power? Those are a lot of the questions that I think we needed to kind of go into a cocoon state and be able to sit and reflect on. And then that lunar eclipse that happened in Taurus was kind of the final push to say, what is my value system? So Taurus kind of rules our own personal value system, as well as a host of other things, right? Our financial systems, our food systems, that kind of thing. But at the core of it, it's about what is our personal value system. And I think that is really what we've been asked to do. What is it about us? What do we really want, right? What is this? And is this what I want to be, or this is how I want to behave, or this is how I want to respond as we move forward? And that was a lot of what we were dealing with as part of this eclipse season. And there was a lot of versions of ourselves that we were letting die off. And it was really a true death process that we were going through. And it's the perfect time to do it. We're in Scorpio season, right? And in order for new versions of ourselves to emerge, we have to go through the death process. We have to go through that transformative process in order to release these old patterns and these old programmings and these ideas that we have been taught to believe, and to be able to come into a new version. We're in this crazy kind of weird pattern. There's definitely a split that has happened for sure. And the new world that we hopefully most of us are wanting, which is a world that is full of peace and love and harmony, a return back to normalcy, really. I mean, we've lived in such an abnormal world. We think this is normal, and it's not. But to come back into the new world, we have to have non-attachment to pretty much everything that we have been taught. And that's the hard part. It's the unwinding process, the unwinding of all of this, to everything that you have ever known, and to be able to sit in a neutral spot, to be able to look at things very neutrally with not an attachment, no emotional attachment, no thought attachment, no ideas, no need to be right. Any of those types of attachments that we create, that is the big work that I think all of us are doing as part of this process, is to really just let go, let go, let go. Where can we detach as best we can from anything and everything that has kept us kind of in a construct? And I've thought a lot about the end of life process, and the idea around the fact that, when you die, when you're at the end of your life and you're going through that process, you can't take anything with you, right? I mean, nothing can go with you. It's your soul that leaves at the end of the day. It leaves the physical body, but it stays, in the infinite. And so I think a lot of this process, at least for me, this is a process of saying, where do I have attachments to anything? And if I were to die tomorrow, I can't take any of this with me. So why am I attached to this? Why am I attached to this person? Or why am I attached to this? Or why am I attached to that? And I think this is what a lot of us are kind of going through from a contemplative state. It is a lot of self-reflection and inner work to say, okay, how can I unstitch from the attachments? Where do I have attachments? Where can I unstitch from these attachments? And that is the big death process I think most of us are going through. Because in order to create this new world, we have to let go of all the ways that we've done things up till now. Okay, they're obviously not working. They are not working. You see that all the systems are failing around, right? So do we have to let it completely die down, just die off in order to create something new? Or do we have an ability to let it go, while at the same time simultaneously creating up new ideas in which to bring up to the forefront? Only time will tell. There's obviously a bigger plan for everything going on. And again, that's an attachment to say, okay, well, I want to know the outcomes. I want to know when this is going to happen. And this is something that I've been very caught up in, and realizing, oh, I need to take a step back and not do that. Because again, we're not in charge. At the end of the day, we're not in charge at all. It's a matter of trusting, right? It's a matter of trusting the process and being okay with just letting things go, and being able to just trust that things are going to happen the way they're going to happen. And that's all we can do, is just trust and surrender, right? I was doing a Kundalini training the other day, and I believe this is something Yogi Benja was saying, I believe, but I'm not going to necessarily put him on the quote, but I really resonated with this. And it says, all spirituality is death training. And that really hit home, because it goes back to that idea, right, of the fact that we're all going to die at some point, right? Everything dies, everything has a cycle, everything has a rhythm to it. And we as well, we have a timestamp on us, whether we like to think about it or not. And part of going through the spiritual process that we go through is the fact that we are training for that time. We're training for the non-attachment. We're training for the time where we recycle, or we complete the mission, or whatever we like to say, right? And this was I think the big thing that I really took from this time of just sitting still and being in cocoon state is, again, it's preparing for that. It's preparing for it by not preparing, which is a really funny way of doing it, but that's a lot of what it is. It's preparing by not preparing. It's preparing by just being. It's preparing by trying to be as present as possible. Preparing, trying to just, again, release from attachments. So that's the big work I think that we have been doing during this process. It's also preparing us, and I know the summer was crazy. It would be literally every day, and sometimes by the hour, sometimes by the minute, things would be shifting so fast. And there was a lot of shifts in relationships because Venus was in retrograde this summer. And I would cry. I would have heartache and cry about some of these relationships that were being released and going away. And by the time this kind of led up to October, and as I was talking about on the podcast, the last podcast, I had somebody in my life who had made the decision to no longer be in my life. And that probably would have taken me under. But because I had all this training and all these experiences over the summer of things shifting and people coming in and out of my life so quickly, and I also making decisions about trimming back relationships and really getting to a very small amount of people within my inner circle, within people I really wanted to have interactions with, because I was so pulled in so many directions. I had so much attachment to so many different people, and they were relying on me, and they had expectations on me, and it was just too much. It was draining my energy. So when that situation happened in October, it was good because I had gotten to a place of non-attachment. And even though I was a bit shocked, it wasn't this dramatic earthquake moment that would have really affected me prior to that period happening, and really going into a state of what I say, what I do, whatever. It wasn't about me. It was about their decision. And it's just the same way as I would say about making decisions to pull back on acquaintances of mine. it's not about them. It was about my own peace and happiness, and allowing myself to just be, and not be trying to give, and not be trying to fix, and not be trying to do all these things that I have done my whole life, but trying to come back to a place of just being, and trying to just be. I mean, really, that's what it is, right? So again, everything happens for a reason. And that's the big theme that I have always said. And so this is what we're working on, right? You know, the one reminder I will put out there is that part of these lessons that we're going through, especially with relationships and people, Carolyn Miss always says this, that all relationships are spiritual messengers, right? And we're all teachers to each other. And there's never a mistake. It's always a lesson that we are learning. We're always learning a lesson, and the people that are coming in are the teachers to give us the lesson. Sometimes the lesson can be painful. Sometimes the delivery is not great. And those that come in and really stir you up are the ones that are really the greatest teachers, because they are triggering a shadow within you that needs to be looked at, that needs to be addressed. And it's all down to you. It's your response to this, right? So is the response going to be, I'm going to play a victim, you've hurt me and it's your fault and how dare you? Or is the response going to be, got it, thank you very much for the lesson, I will take that back, and I will do some self-reflection work. And that's the struggle, right? It's the struggle, and especially it's the struggle when we are so used to collective thought forms and the amplification, and the fueling of the fire. You know, again, part of what we're working on and part of what we are learning right now is, how do we not fight fire with fire? Aries is very good at this. So with the North Node, we're seeing this conflict on the, you know, on the global scale, right? Who's got the bigger guns? Who's got this? Who's got more power? All of these things that drive and fuel this behavior. And I think a lot of us are really saying, okay, I don't like this energy anymore. I don't like this approach anymore. It does not work. It is an outdated, old approach. So how can we shift the story that you're not the victim, or they're not the victim, or they're not the villain in the story, right? They're not a villain. How can we shift it from hate and aggression and power to love, peace, harmony? And in order to do that, we all have to do the inner work. We have to start with us, right? We have to start with our own being and recognizing our own patterns and our own ways where we lock in, and let that go. Let it go, change the behavior, change the reaction. So instead of lashing out or getting swept up in the collective thoughts about this situation or that situation or what's going on, or getting in people's business, which is none of your business, it's about how do you just stay in a place of neutrality, but also hold love, hold the frequency of love. And I think that's the big question, right? That we've all gotta ask ourselves. So on the eclipse, I did some automatic writing, and I had pages of notes that came through from my guides, a lot of really beautiful nuggets that came through. But I wanted to read this one because I think this kind of plays into kind of where we're at collectively and individually on what we're working through right now, and what's going to happen as we move through November, and remembering how we can react to things as the November energy unfolds. So my guides were saying, it is through peace that you become free. Freedom is something that everyone can have, but many choose to stay out of freedom because they are tied to their pain and suffering. When we find inner peace through forgiving ourselves, others who have, quote, hurt us, and more through our earth life with peace in our hearts, we can find freedom. You and others are in a place of great choice. Many like you feel and know that a new path must be forged. You can no longer move through your earth experience and suffering. You must choose peace to achieve freedom. This is the new earth. Within the inner, the outer shines with peace, and a ripple takes hold to create a movement. It is through one that the tides may turn and a new way of being can emerge. So thank you to the guides for bringing that through. It was a very good reminder that we all can be free. It's a choice, and we all can be free, and we all can have peace through that freedom. And we are at a point where you can choose which fork in the road that you want to go down. Do you want to go down this path, or do you want to go down this path? And that's the big question I think we are all asking ourselves and grappling with right now. So with that, let's talk about what's coming up for November. I have a bunch of notes, so I'm going to go through those. Things aren't going to necessarily be calmer. One, we're still in Scorpio season until later in the month. Two, we are still feeling the effects of the eclipse energies going on. And three, we do have some tension this month because Mars is playing a pretty significant role this month. And Mars is action oriented. It likes to just take charge, and it doesn't necessarily think about what it's doing. It's got blinders on. So it charges out of the gate, but it doesn't necessarily have a plan with it. And so we have to be very mindful of when we take action. And this is why kind of staying in a still spot, in a neutral spot, observing before taking action is going to be really important for us as we move through the rest of this year, for sure, and definitely for November. So the first big event that's going to happen is on November the 4th. Saturn has been retrograde since June 17th of this year. So this has been a hard-hitting retrograde because we've had that along with 6 other planets in retrograde most of the summer. Things have been kind of at a standstill, a slowdown. Saturn is the great taskmaster. It is the great teacher. And it's also the ruler of our karma. And wherever Saturn is placed in your charts, whenever it's making shifts for the collective as well, it's going to really make you work harder. And it's going to give you a lot of lessons in which to work through. And this has been very, very prominent through the whole summer. We've been growing. We have been learning so much over these past few months. And Saturn combined with Venus in retrograde, because Venus was about our relationships, we had such a focus on learning a lot of lessons through the relationships that we've had in our life. And they have, really pushed us forward in so many ways. But it's also given us an opportunity to look at our own patterns and how we are in relationship with other people, right? It's been in Pisces. Saturn has been in Pisces. And, Pisces is the karmic closet. It is the spiritual plane. It is what is hidden. It's our spiritual debts in many ways. And so we haven't been able to escape responsibilities at all. And we've had to face a lot of things that we have tried to avoid. Also things that were very much in the unconscious of our being, especially old contracts, karmic relationships, all of those things. I know pretty much all summer, the clients that I was working with, we were doing a lot of deep work within the Akashic records. Contracts were a huge part of this. This was like deep, very, very old contract pieces that we were working with all summer long. And I think a lot of that's why the energy fields were so cluttered. There was so much congestion in the energy fields. And we also have had these timelines collapsing of all the lifetimes that we've ever lived have been collapsing on top of each other, especially for certain people who are definitely more on what I would call here to help awaken, or here to help move the new earth, bring the new earth about, move the collective in a new direction. It was definitely about karmic cleanup, and we had to kind of get out of our own way, and we had to relieve those karmic debts in order for us to step into new roles that most of us are stepping in. So the good news is that now that Saturn is going direct on November 4th, we are able to use all the knowledge that we've collected, all the lessons that we have learned, and we're going to be able to really outline some good goals for ourselves, some ambitions, because Saturn loves that. It loves to set a goal. It loves to work hard towards that goal in order to bring in our new life and our new way of doing things, or our new roles that we're going to be playing. So all of those things, while hard, have been a very good turning point in order for us to move in a new direction. That same day, on November the 4th, we have a hard aspect as Mercury in Scorpio, so digging deep into our psyche, is opposing Uranus in Taurus. This is very unexpected energy. It's very unexpected energy as it relates to, the earth, into our bodies, into our value system. We want the truth to come out. And with Mercury in Scorpio, it's digging under the surface. It's digging under the crevices to come to the surface of what has been really hidden, what's in the unconscious, or what are structures hiding from us that needs to come to the surface, that needs to be unveiled. With everything going on in the world and the power dynamics at play, there could be a lot of big shifts happening. And Saturn moving direct too, we're learning a lot of lessons within this. So it should be an interesting day to see what kind of shifts we may see collectively, as well as just individually. What are the realizations that are coming in for you, for yourself? Next big date is November the 8th. This is when Venus enters Libra. Venus loves being in Libra. And again, Venus has very much been on display all summer long. Again, finding how do we communicate with love? How do we find love for ourselves? How do we find love for each other? And within Libra, it's one of its ruling placements here. So it's about how do we put love at the forefront of all of it, we again are still working through a lot of what we went through this summer. So can we still love people that might have caused us some pain or heartache? So again, instead of throwing arrows back or fighting fire with fire, how can we be more patient, more understanding? How can we release someone with love instead of with hate? So a lot of this is, how do we find love? How do we stay in love? And how do we provide love to the world outside of ourselves, so we can come back here and realize we're all human beings. We should love each other, not fight each other, not hurt each other. We see the worst of humanity right now, but how can we be the best of humanity? How can we come back and be the best of humanity? And so that love frequency is really what this is. Venus is moving back into Libra, so we want to be in love. On November 9th, Mercury is going to move into Sagittarius. So this is going to give us very fiery and direct communications. There's no beating around the bush when Mercury is in Sagittarius. It's very straightforward. It's very direct. The only lower octave of Sagittarius is that it can be very preachy. It can try and know it all. So it's really important, again, to stay in that heart space. Again, Venus and Libra, come back to that as you're having communications. with other people, but you need to be very direct about what it is that you want, what it is that you need. And if things aren't working, that's the time to express that or make a change in another way, right? Walk away from it, but with love. All right, so the next big day is going to be November 11th. This is the 11/11 portal. This is a big day. This is a really big day, actually. And I've been getting a lot of downloads about 11/11 for a while. They keep shifting though. So as much as I would love to like tell everybody about the downloads I'm getting, because things are shifting literally all the time, they're shifting by the minute, plans are changing. I don't want to just put out information in any way, but I will say anytime we have an amplification of numbers like this 11/11, it's a big portal day. 11/11/2, I mean, it's like a restart. It's a restart of a new cycle. One is the start of a brand new thing. So I'm hopeful on this day that we are opening a portal for a restart for the collective and for ourselves. On this day, Mars is going to be in Scorpio, opposite Uranus and Taurus. So Mars, again, wants to take action. It wants to unearth things. It wants to show the underbelly of what's going on in Scorpio. And Uranus is unexpected energy. Anything can happen and probably will. This can bring some major shifts. It can bring, because Taurus is also tied to the earth, it could bring shifts from storms, volcanic activity, earthquakes, like really kind of anything is possible. The thing is that we've got to really trust that, again, surrendering, things are outside of our control in most ways. And, you know, if we've done the inner work, then we're going to be steady, right? And it's not about reacting to anything. It's about coming back to the place of, can I be the calm within the storm? And with this particular day and the energy that's happening, that's the big question I think we have to ask ourselves. Can I be the calm in the storm? Whatever's going on out here, can I be the calm in the storm, and can I stay in my heart? So just know it could be a great day because we have a new beginning, a new cycle starting, or it can be the ending of something that then allows us to open a new portal into a new beginning. So whatever it is, let's choose the higher octave of the energy and choose the timeline of the highest timeline, which is about fresh starts and new beginnings. That's how I'm going to look at this. On November 13th, we have the new moon in Scorpio this day. Again, we have an opposition though to Uranus and Taurus. So again, we are kind of continuing this unexpected energy that we are seeing on the 11th for the 11/11 portal. The sun and the moon are going to be at 20 degrees in Scorpio, but we've also got a conjunction with Mars. So aggressive, unexpected, volatile energy perhaps could be at the forefront. Again, we are in unearthing mode in the Scorpio mansion. We are unearthing a lot of things. We're digging in what has been hidden. I feel like this is going to be very big collective energy this day, not just internal energy. I feel like it's going to be a lot of big shifts externally. There has been so much lower octave energy, so much energy that is not of the highest good, that has been so prominent all summer long. And it's kind of come in and then out, and then in and then out. And then we're really seeing it on full display collectively right now. And, you know, it's just about this power play. It's like, who's going to stay in charge? Who's going to stay in charge of what's been going on for so long? And I feel like the ramping up of these lower octave energies are ones that are doing this on purpose to try and keep us out of the place of peace and love. So I know so many of you are tired of it. I'm so tired of it. But again, we have to be the change agent in this, and we have to start with ourselves versus trying to expect that external forces are going to change in that regard. So start here and amplify out. November the 22nd, the sun is going to enter Sagittarius. So this is going to bring more energy. Sagittarius is a fire element, but it also wants us to look at the big picture. So we're looking at things from the 50,000-foot view versus being in the weeds. So how can we zoom out and to be able to see things from a higher perspective versus getting in the details of anything? So a lot of the work that we're going to be doing around this is how do we expand our minds and our thinking into a bigger perspective versus being in the, little bits of whatever it is that we get into. It's about exploring new avenues. It's about perhaps traveling, getting a different perspective, getting a different viewpoint on things. So this is big energy. It's bold energy. Sagittarius is a centaur. It's shooting an arrow up into the skies. So it's grounded, yet it's reaching for the stars. And that's kind of the energy that we're working with. Like, what is the big picture? What are the bigger things that are going on? Instead of focusing on just the day-to-day, how can we pull back and really see things from a different perspective? And that's the work we're going to do when we move into Sagittarius season. On November 24th, so 2 days later, when the sun enters Sagittarius, Mars is going to join. So Mars and the sun are kind of in this tight conjunction through the whole month of November. So again, we've got a lot of action taking place, a lot of bold moves taking place. Could be aggressive energy if it's not at the highest octave of it. So now it's going to enter Sagittarius on the 24th. So we're going to have big energies to help move things forward for sure. Again, it can be very temperamental, but we're hopefully going to go on the higher octave of this energy. Mars, again, it has its sights set on kind of like a get it done, get in, one-track mind. Sagittarius can be a little careless at times. It can be a little sloppy at times as well. So we have to be very mindful about what we do and where we take action. So again, pausing before we take action. And that's going to be a hard fight because with Mars and Sagittarian energy, you just want to go. You don't want to think about anything. You just want to take off and go. And we're going to have to really practice some restraint for ourselves to stop and sit and analyze, look at the big picture, 50,000-foot view versus just going. So we have to stop and think before we take action. That's going to be the big lesson around this. And then finally, to wrap up the entire month of November, the other big piece that we have is we have a full moon in Gemini on November 27th. So Gemini is ruled by Mercury. It is all about being in the details. It is the one that likes a lot of information. It's not a master. It's not an expert in any necessarily one field. It likes to have its hands in a lot of different things. But it's also about the mind, about how we communicate, how we interact with other people. And, Gemini is very much in that headspace. It's very much in the thought patterns. And so we're releasing with this. What are the thought patterns? What are the ways that we get into the weeds, that we get kind of hooked up and caught up on things that we can't let go of? So are we overthinking? Are we overanalyzing? Are we over communicating? Are we saying too much? Are we dabbing in too many different activities and too many things where we're expending our energy in too many ways? So these are the things that we are going to explore about what do I need to release from this? And as we're stripping back, and we've been stripping back all through Scorpio season, and we're unearthing and we're doing all these things, this will be a nice release, I think, to, again, what's the residual energies that we still are working with? What are the residual energies that we need to let go of? What are the things that we can kind of get out of the microscopic, out of the details, and pull back to a higher perspective, knowing that there's so much more beyond just us and our little microcosm of our world that is out in the universe. And we have to be really mindful that there's always a bigger thing going on. There's always a bigger plan. And even though we may not be privy to it, even though we may not be able to see it or have the privilege to be able to have that information, this is where we have to really stop, pause, and pull back, and really take a bigger look, knowing that things are already in motion. Things are already kind of planned out. And yes, plans change, and they can change from the higher realms as well. But the surrendering and the trust and coming back to what is it that I can do? What is the work that I can do for myself to release and help the collective as a whole move into a whole nother mindset. So I wish you all the very best November, and remember to stay in your hearts, stay in love, and please amplify that out to the world, because we need it more now than ever. Blessings to all of you.